All right. Anyways, let's uh. What's going on with the
Today's video
CEO?
with a quote. Let me know if you agree with it. Here it is. Tarkov has done
Oh,
irreparable
Tarkov.
damage to the games industry. Everything needs to be a
Nikita.
what do you call them? Extraction shooter. Those are the words of an exasperated man. That man is from New Blood Interactive. He's the founder. His name is David Oshry. And while he does go on to poke some fun at himself, basically saying, I'm an old boomer, I'm not the target audience of this game, he did say what many people are actually feeling, that just like with the Battle Royales, we see yet another groan-worthy industry trend-chasing event where everything has got to be a
like
bloody
Tarkov,
extraction shooter. I mean, even Respawn was making a Titanfall extraction shooter before it was cancelled, because hey, Titanfall can't be Titanfall. But recently,
they're trying to do like a smaller
story a little bit. Marathon happened.
They're trying to do like a smaller scaled
Arc Raiders is getting traction
extraction shooter,
that
not
Marathon
like
has not, and figuring out
not
why
like the
I
long
came to a
raids
hell
that
of a realization.
Tarkov has,
So let's get the show on the road. Tarkov is an extraction game, but not all extraction games are like Tarkov.
Yeah,
extraction is
exactly.
essentially just this: games where a player enters a level, attempts to gather.
First and foremost, even though Tarkov isn't an extraction shooter in a sense, it's still a military sim, right? You still do certain right? You check your gun, right? Check your ammo, stuff like that. You all do that, right?
Other valuable resources and then extract
with weapon
those back
attachments,
to some sort of meta progression
right?
layer. Tarkov fits that, but so does Repo,
stuff.
Lethal Company, and Helldivers too. Each of those does well off the absurd, wacky comedy you get when you've got these messy little meaty things called human beings interacting in a group with a whole bunch of interesting systems. Yep. That's basically what makes the genre kind of cool. So what's different, then, about games like Tarkov or Marathon? Well, simple, right? PvE and PvP. Tension stems from the potential for loss in both, but in PvE, it feels like a loss, while in PvP, it feels like something has been taken from you by another person, and that does not appeal to everyone, but it obviously does appeal to a lot of people, because the tension is second to goddamn none. Anyway, the point is that as Bungie probably noticed
why
when they
wouldn't
looked at
you
their
like
majority
dunking
PvE,
on peasants?
Destiny audience, talk about Marathon, yeah, not everybody likes the PvP part, but this actually goes deeper. PvE games can naturally coexist. They're inherently more positive sum, but without players, a PvP game is dead. So, of course, our eyes roll at the sight of yet another PvP extraction game. We think they just seem like, oh, another game that's probably going to fail, so why even bother getting excited? Marathon invoked that feeling. Now, to be fair, part of that is just general, breached trust with Bungie, but a lot of it is just the big trend that we've seen this all before with the Battle Royale. But why is it that Marathon invokes that, but Arc Raiders does not? See, here's the thing. Both games just had alphas,
or at least
but the responses to those alphas could
PvP.
not have been more different. Marathon's alpha lasted just under 2 weeks, and according to Paul Tassie's sources, it actually didn't go as planned. That's actually now true on multiple levels. So first off, it was to be a closed alpha, a closed test, but Bungie allegedly lifted the NDA in an attempt to counter the skeptical reception that they got to the reveal of their game. Now, going a level deeper, it's obviously
what all the I think some of the people who played the Marathon stuff kind of liked it, and some people didn't, so it's hard to say.
True alpha, not just a marketing exercise or a server test, right? And Paul Tassie's sources corroborate that it, again, is a real test of game design and systems. So whenever players who have played the testing version say that Marathon cannot launch like this, they're literally correct. It can't. It's a true alpha. It never should be launched. Now, we all understand why Bungie responded this way, right? They were doing an alpha anyway. They had mixed reception, and they basically thought, seeing is believing, we need people to get footage out there. Just like, say, what EA actually did with Battlefield in a little bit of a way. But to go back to the story.
They changed the new Battlefield to have named operators or some shit like that. I don't know what they did.
Bungie, a
It
true
was like a
alpha
hero shooter.
often won't
Hero
make
shooter
for an
almost.
explosive marketing coup because it's true alpha. It's not going to blow people away with its polish. But even then, reactions have been
What was
mixed,
it that's
and they fall into
story
two
stuff
broad
they did? I don't
camps.
remember.
This is what matters. One,
I haven't
it doesn't
played
have enough
Battlefield
extraction
either.
shooter
Shit.
genre conventions to satisfy genre fans. Problem two, it doesn't have a strong enough hook to pull in non-extraction shooter fans. That's a little bit of a pickle, and those non-extraction shooter fans are in many cases going to be Destiny players. You know,
no,
the
sorry.
audience that Bungie
I'm sorry,
actually
I'm a
has.
Gears of
And that is a
War
rough
person,
situation for them. And while this is not some
Battlefield.
sort of huge rejection of the game, Paul Tassi points out
Even
there
the
are hundreds of thousands
cockadoodie,
of people
a
trying
little
to get
bit.
codes or
Well,
their work in the
not
Marathon
anymore
Discord.
now.
What it does is it sets a bad tone. And that is a bad tone that Arc Raiders just exploited. In a way, this is actually just goddamn tragic. So, Marathon is effectively where Arc Raiders was in June 2023. It's a small-scale technical test designed to get
Yeah,
feedback
Arc
on core
Raiders.
systems and
Yeah, I
stability.
saw some people
But
playing this.
Arc Raiders then
It
got the
just looked
luxury
like
of
another
2 whole
extraction
years
shooter
of
to me,
iteration
for
ahead
sure.
of its full launch, which is, going to be this year. Marathon, though, has until September. So not only did Arc have more time, but it also is able to meet those Marathon criticisms head on. Genre fans get what they would expect. There is proximity chat, solo queuing, crafting, and that's only to name a few. But most importantly, the hooks for Arc have actually landed, where it's now not just appealing to the hardcore genre fans.
Really?
And that's, I think, quite because it's third-person, post-apocalyptic setting. You're heading to the surface for 30 minutes, scavenging what you can, getting back underground before you're killed by other players or big giant robots. It's actually doing enough to hook in other people, and I think it helps that, my God, they have executed their vibe, their visuals, their sound, their graphic design. They've really nailed that. And the response to actually playing this game has been really positive from the people who've got access, especially in the streaming community. There's footage from Shroud, Jack Frags, and the others that are showing off. Essentially the best of what an extraction game can be. That you get emergent narrative moments of, taking on threats, negotiation with opponents, tense combat, all of that blending together with these photogrammetry built locations that look stunning, and a lo-fi 80s sci-fi aesthetic.
I don't know if the
absolutely
Soviets made
nailed.
subsonic
That's
rounds.
strong stuff. But mostly,
Because it's like a lot of
it's
people
a
were trying to
traditional
develop
extraction
shit like that
shooter
already.
gameplay that's just been hyper polished
It's a
and
race.
iterated on. And that makes complete sense. Because technically, it really doesn't seem that this thing's changed much since the early footage in 2022. Obviously, behind the scenes it has. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
They may look fairly similar to us as players, just comparing frames of trailers, but all those years of work actually went somewhere. And that's what brings us to the other Marathon comparison: reveals going poorly. You see, here's the funny thing. Embark, the developer behind Arc Raiders, initially revealed it as a PvE extraction game. But they then delayed it to work in the finals, and then they pivoted Arc over to PvP after basically doing PvP playtests internally and them literally just having more fun. Now,
the issue is they didn't build it out in the beginning to do PvP. And right, they just did PvP as an afterthought, and then now they're just like, oh, shit, we should have just made it PvP. They would have to essentially rebuild out some of the systems now, if that's the case.
Now, I get that from their perspective.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but you need to start developing it at the very start. Is this going to be a PvP or a PvE game? And then if you fucking half-ass it, like, after everything's all said and done, well, you just wasted a lot of fucking dev time and money for, I don't even know how long you just fucking did that, right?
But that was a bit of a bold thing.
You gotta
told
fucking,
people
if
to
you
be
don't,
PvE, so
if you want to be efficient and not fucking lose money so much, right? Because you're essentially losing money every time you have to pivot and change new direction. But if you want the least amount of change, you fucking make sure you build it out correctly.
Not surprising that their re-reveal of that as a PvP game completely backfired. I saw goddamn rage everywhere back, June 2023. It was just that perfect mix of disappointment and anger.
It's unfortunate.
But it actually turns
you can't
out
see
that
the future sometimes,
video games,
man,
polish
and
actually
sure as hell
does
make sure you
make
don't
the
fucking
difference.
cause
In removing PvE, Arc
issues.
took the thing that hyped people the most away And that's the point where these two games diverge. Ark gets so much polish that it stands out beyond its genre, basically convincing people that no, this actually is worth paying attention to. Marathon, though, well, it gets an NDA lifted, revealing a game too early in development to stand above its genre. That's absolutely going to sting for the developers. I mean, just think what they've been through, being at Bungie this last while with all the chaos. But as much as that's true, we are skeptical for a reason. And this is the big learning, because it goes deeper than just trend chasing. Nexon acquired Embark, of course being the Arc Raiders developers, in 2021. And it's easy to read the change to Arc Raiders as a, hey, make the game PvP, make more money, just like Tarkov, we're Nexon, money me now. Yeah, you could read it as that. But part of the distinction between PvP and PvE extraction games is that PvP creates...
Also, Tarkov is like what? Like, well, when it first came out, it was like what, 40, 50 bucks or something like that? Or to buy in. But then the issue with Tarkov is there's a lot of, I shouldn't start to say if there's a lot of cheaters on it now, but any game with PvP and right, hate to say it, but there's going to be cheaters.
It's more potential for interesting gameplay. That's basically just because it's hard to make AI so good that the AI can top the sheer chaos created by other players.
Yeah.
That's also why Dave Oshry was kind of, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, mad about things. You see, that quote I was talking about at the top of the video, that was him reacting to Hidetaki Miyazaki from Software, and the fact that he really likes Tarkov. Yes, Miyazaki's video, that was him reacting.
Tarkov has done irreparable fucking damage to the game industry. Everything needs to be a fucking, what do they call them? Extraction. Right. Every company is now trying to make their own Tarkov, right? Escape from Tarkov. It's just like, I don't think a lot of a lot of the big companies are not going to be able to mainstream this correctly. Why? Because it's a military sim. You cannot just take Tarkov and just take out the military sim from it and just gamify the shit out of it. It doesn't work like that. The reason why Tarkov is doing so well is because it caters to a certain, a specific demographic of people.
Reacting to Hidetaki Miyazaki from Software, and the fact that
gun
he really likes Tarkov. Yes, Miyazaki loves Tarkov.
Some military personnel, literally.
Duskbloods, which is the new FromSoft game, he told IGN that the network functionality and the game design were particularly interesting. Quote,
who just love shooting shit and messing with firearms.
Paying attention to those elements as a creator and a fan of the game. So,
I mean, I guess you got some women who love
Mr.
firearms
Elden Ring,
and,
Mr. Dark Souls,
too, but it's
really
mainly dudes.
likes Tarkov. That's what he's bringing to the next game.
I hate to say it, but the online space tech, the tech universe, the tech world, yeah, it's 80% men. Sorry, maybe 90% men.
So in one way, the Duskbloods has
There's
a
not
similar
too many
inspirational
women who
lineage.
go into this industry.
This is where it gets wild, as something like Clarobscura Expedition 33. That may seem wild, but hold on a second. It's the result of a developer who finds something compelling in the systems of a game that they love, and they want to see what they can do with that. That's what Expedition 33 does to Final Fantasy X. It's what Miyazaki wants to do with Tarkov. It seems to actually come from a genuine place. That may even be why could actually be pretty damn good. I think there's something noble in that, and perhaps, more so in convincing Nintendo
I think
to actually
the
pay
issue
for that
with
experiment. I'm sure they like the idea of having an extraction, because there's also the industry component to this. Investors and publishers will think that they have seen this pattern before. By pattern, I mean this. PUBG was the first big Battle Royale game,
PUBG,
right?
Yeah.
But it was Fortnite that made it approachable
PUBG, then
and
Fortnite.
Massively scaled it beyond the hard.
Well, I mean, Fortnite was
so
more
why do COD and Battlefield ram extraction modes
catered to
Why are the big
children.
companies doing extraction? Why are ex-veteran AAA developers on the whole west coast of America all funded by random VCs to make extraction games these days? Well, the same reason, right? If PUBG is Tarkov, then we have not seen the Fortnite equivalent. And that's why there's so much money behind this genre. To you and me, it's yet more companies doing stupid trend chasing. It's another rush of just companies slinging minimum viable
Yeah, I mean, Tarkov is not a
us.
battle royale.
That's the big point. That's why we roll our eyes.
The reason why
right?
Tarkov
Oh
is
my
not
God.
a battle
Realm
royale.
Royale.
It's
Wow, another BR.
That.
That's just what I need.
Battle royales.
If you ask me, that's the difference between the highlight games of this video,
bullshit,
Marathon and Arc Raiders. Basically, Marathon has went
and then
down
you have
the
people
way
dropping
it did
down
because
in the
it
same
feels
area.
like a minimum
Time to
viable
kill in
product.
some of those.
It
right
now
fast.
is an alpha in the truest sense, even though it apparently has got to come out in September. Arc Raiders does not feel like that. It does not feel like a minimum viable product because we know what it looked like a year and a half, 2 years ago, and we know that they've just relentlessly honed it. That doesn't feel like something that's just been shat out to try.
Yeah, I don't know why, but the Arc Raiders kind of reminds me of the Division, right? Especially with this stuff right here. Reminds me of the Division. And then just the UI, right? The UI interface, right? It just very minuscule, right? Not a lot going on.
To capture some of a genre, and that's why as players we have responded differently. In a world full of skepticism and lacking in authenticity, the way to cut through, funnily enough, is to just be fucking earnest. And it seems that's what this game is.
Oh yeah,
about.
actually, Division's fucking Dark Zone. Yeah, that was like a extraction
to do. As much as the Arc Raiders feelings are good, I do want to be clear, it kind of feels like we're reaching a tipping point here. If only because we're now seeing non-extraction companies like, say, FromSoft and Bungie trying their hands at doing extraction.
This was back in 2016.
Now, this might all be driven by the fact that Tarkov is finally releasing its full version this year. Yeah, it's finally not a beta.
2019.
And that means that it will actually be on Steam for the first time as well. So there's really never been a better chance to break out before that big incumbent ends up in Steam. Arc Raiders is appealing to the Tarkov audience by giving them a similar experience, right? They're, proximity chat, things that, say, Bungie are not doing. It's giving them the similar things, but in a new setting and with supplementary mechanics and movement and all of that make their game experience stand out. Marathon, though, is trying to reach the console audience that made Destiny a success, and to do that, they're trying to do an approachable take on the genre. Hence, them disagreeing, right, with the genre hardcores and things like proximity chat. That means they cannot count on the hardcore audience. They're literally not trying to appeal to them. But big picture, we might be at the crest of a wave here. If you account for pandemic shutdown, we're at the point where the funding that started so many different extraction shooters is finally bearing fruit. That means a bunch are going to be coming out. But if these massive games do not see the expected investor returns, perhaps as fast as investors want them, and it turns out that Tarkov really is the ceiling of the extraction shooter, well, then maybe extraction shooters will end up like flight sims or hidden object games, where, well, there's tiny dedicated indies and, one or two big players in the scene with not that much in between. I would not be surprised if that happens. It very much could be the case that hunger for the next version of the Battle Royale was misplaced. That may be what they want, but that really, right, if you think about your Fortnites and a lot of those games, what are they doing? Well, they're pivoting towards user-generated content. They are going for the business model of tomorrow. It's not a business model that I like, but it's what they're going for.
I mean, Fortnite
Meanwhile,
should just get
you could say these
Kamala
trend
Harris
chasers
to run
replicate
their
something that
weird
happened,
event again, right?
8 years ago,
With no one shooting
may
each
not
other.
be the best
No
play
one
for
with
today's
guns,
market.
huh?
And speaking of plays for today's market, well, Xbox just went and made everything expensive, including video games. So Nintendo have done it, Xbox have done it, everyone else is going to do it. So if you want to know what's going on, watch this video next.
Yes. Everyone is doing it. They want the next Tarkov to be theirs. They want the money. More money. Money, money! Money! Money, 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 money! Money! Alright. I think we're gonna watch the 7 emotions that push civilization next time. I'm gonna call it. I'm fucking tired. I'm tired. I am gonna call it. We will. What's tomorrow? Monday? Oh yeah, today's Monday. Okay, yeah. All I have to do is study now since I only have a final on Thursday, so we're all chilling. Did all my fucking school, my papers. I turned in my fucking my research stuff. This is all turned in. All done. Oh man, this was a fucking pain in the ass. Money, 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 money. All this bullshit out of fucking right. All my fucking references. Fuck me. Man, this was a pain in the ass. I probably have to do it again next time. But yeah. Anyways. Oh, pain. Pain and suffering. Anyways, thank you for watching. Peace out. Have a good one.